Welcome to another episode, everyone. The Muslims versus the Crips. Well, Jabari and F-Bone have gotten into it. Welcome to part 2. And the Muslims have attacked F-Bone and another Crip and left them, shall we say, bloody. F-Bone has now left the yard. He's gone. And the Crips, they're up in arms, at least his inner circle. Many of the Crips, they understand why this situation transpired. They do not agree with F-Bone and how he had been comporting himself there on the yard. They too felt like F-Bone was headed for a wreck. And he precipitated his own demise by bothering someone who was not bothering him. An ex-member, solid through and through. And perhaps he did put out the word to attack F-Bone. Whether he did or did not, the Crips felt like he indeed did send that word or at least subscribe to the attack. What to do then, as far as the Crips are concerned? Is every Crip going to get involved? Crips from Sacramento, Fresno, the IE, etc., even Crips from out of state, out of town, versus the Muslims? Or is it just going to be the LA Crips, since the dude, F-Bone, who was savagely attacked, was indeed from Los Angeles? These were the goings on the yard and the back and forth. People were trying to understand what was about to transpire next. Many people had Jabari's back and felt like he and the Muslims were not in the wrong whatsoever. However, once blood has been shed and weapons have been involved, then there has to be a retaliation. There has to be a response there in prison, or your car, your faction will be looked upon as a bunch of nobodies, a bunch of cowards. And so the Crips understood that they had to respond. However, Jabari knew as well, knowing the politics, having been a member before, formerly a certified member, he understood the politics and that the Crips would indeed respond, retaliate, and that perhaps he, in fact, was the target. And he was going to be prepared. And the very next day, we did not go on lockdown because, as I've said before, Corcoran State Prison at this time was very venal, corrupt, diabolical, and sordid. The police themselves were committing dastardly crimes. And so they were sanctioning these fights and stabbings there on the yard, betting on these fights. And so when the fights and stabbings transpired, there were not many lockdowns. Go on lockdown for a day sometimes never even went on lockdown. People would get away with assaults versus another inmate because, again, the police were subscribing to this sort of bestial behavior. And so when they attacked F-Bone, the police, they didn't really like F-Bone either. They didn't even put the place on lockdown, knowing that the Crips were bound to respond, and swiftly. And so the next day, day room happened there inside of the building. Come out for day room, shower, play dominoes at the table, work out, shoot the breeze with the homie, whatever you're going to do, an hour and a half of day room recall. Program is over until the next morning. But they run one tier at a time. Top tier has day room one night, bottom tier has day room another night. And on this particular night, the tier that Jabari was on was not the tier that had day room. And so there were still a couple of Muslims there in the building with Jabari. And when the doors cracked for the opposite tier that Jabari was on, the Crips came out and they immediately attacked the Muslim. They attacked him swiftly and savagely. They too wanted to send a message that although they did not agree with F-Bone, and if anything, agreed with Jabari that he had a right to pray inside of his cell at whatever time he pleased or his religion dictated. Nevertheless, a weapon had been used on one of their comrades, and again, out of duty and not wanting to be accused of dereliction of duty, they had to retaliate with weapons. An eye for an eye. This is the politics in prison. And they did just that. They attacked the Muslim. They did stab the Muslim. And it was 3 to 4 Crips on the Muslim before anyone had a chance to come to the Muslim's aid. And Jabari, he's right there on the cell door. When the police are yelling, "Get down, get down," he runs to the door. He sees what's going on. His comrade is under fire and being attacked. Certainly, he's thinking to himself, "I'm next." Nevertheless, he's a strong and laced up individual. Thus, he understands the vitalness, the importance that it is imperative to go on the offensive. And don't wait for someone to attack you, particularly when you are a target. He has been to gang functions. He was a primary member of his gang. He understands gang politics, prison politics, gang wars, prison wars. He knows everything. This is where F-Bone, I believe, went wrong from the beginning, underestimating Jabari and believing that Jabari, because he is now devoutly religious, has somehow compromised at least parts of his manhood. This was a miscalculation on the part of F-Bone, who again was prone to bullying. And Jabari sat in his cell after they attacked his comrades and did his calculations and said, "I will not be next." The Crips have responded, they retaliated, and they sent the old boy out essentially on a stretcher. Again, not much of a lockdown. They did lock the place down for a couple of days after this transpires because now there had been 2 stabbings back to back between the Crips and the Muslims in back-to-back days. And so they had to do something about that. So they locked the place down just for a couple of days and talked to each side, making sure everything was cool and everything had been resolved. Everybody said yes and played cool. They ran day room again a few days after the fact. And when they ran day room this time, Jabari's door cracked. It was his tier that had day room. And when Jabari came out of his cell, he immediately attacked F-Bone Sally. F-Bone Sally was also a Crip. And I believe that Jabari blamed him as well for some of the things that had transpired on the yard in the last few days. I believe that perhaps he had something to say to Jabari as well about the prayer, or at least was sanctioning what F-Bone was doing. Also, Jabari felt like he was going to go on the offensive and not sit back and wait on the Crips to attack him. He felt like he knew as soon as he came out of his cell and they started, and everybody came into the day room, once they hit every cell and all the Crips came into the day room, that he was going to be the target and be attacked. So as soon as they hit his cell, before they can hit everyone else's cell and all the Crips can come out, they hit his cell, hit his neighbor's cell to come out. He came out and ran inside of his neighbor's cell, the Crip, F-Bone Selly, with a weapon and began to attack him relentlessly. F-Bone Selly, I forget his name, well, he was in shock. He was not expecting this. In fact, he was probably in on the attack imminent on Jabari, coming up within minutes. But Jabari beat him to the punch and said that he was not going to sit back and wait on these people to attack him. Once they attacked his comrade, stabbed him up, sent him out on the stretcher, he knew he was next and decided he would go on the offensive. Ran inside of F-Bone Selly's cell and began to attack him until the police caught wind of what was going on, stopped letting everyone out of their cell for day room, get down, ran in his cell, and got Jabari and his victim out of there. Jabari then left the yard. So did F-Bone Selly. And now tension again is on the yard. Will the Crips respond? Because Jabari, ex-blood, now a Muslim, has attacked yet another Crip. And another Crip has been attacked with a weapon by a Muslim. After many back and forth, excuse me, they really did decide to resolve it. They said, F-Bone is off the yard, Jabari is off the yard, a couple of other Muslims are off the yard, a couple of other Crips are off the yard. We gonna leave it like that. We don't agree with what F-Bone did, but we had to respond because y'all used a weapon. And then Jabari turned around and used a weapon again on F-Bone Selly. But it's only a few Muslims left on the yard, and the ones that's left, everybody has love for them as well. We had love for all of the Muslims. They're our brothers, and they're pushing brotherhood. So no one wants to continue this. But no one was really sure if the Crips were going to leave it like that because, again, another one of theirs had been attacked with a weapon. Is this subterfuge when they say that the war is over? Turns out it was the truth. They were being authentic and willing to let bygones be bygones and said that F-Bone had started this. It didn't end well for him. Jabari essentially just stayed down, bro. In my estimation, he knew that they were coming for him and he moved first. It's as simple as that. And it was really resolved. That was it. They got back to normal program after a bit of a lockdown and the police making sure that everything was resolved. And we continued on with the program. But again, this is what I mean by disrespect in prison. Was Jabari being disrespectful with his prayer? Probably not. I don't think so. I don't think he was loud, and he told the dude that he would tone down. This guy, this individual just had it in for him, I think, believing that Jabari showed disloyalty by leaving his gang. Even though he wasn't a Crip, he was a Blood. He's still a gang member. And the dude felt betrayed or something. F-Bone felt betrayed. It felt like, oh, you a Muslim, whatever. And really tried him. And in the end, F-Bone really paid a price. But everyone lost in a situation. Jabari went to the hole. F-Bone went to the hospital, then the hole. F-Bone Selly went to the hospital. The other Muslim got attacked. Everybody in the hole in the hospital got caught with knives, catching cases, assault cases. Who wants to deal with it? All because someone, as far as I'm concerned, was overstepping his boundaries, telling a religious person how he can pray and when he can pray. So goes the life in prison. The only remedy is to stay the hell out of there. Stay out of jail. Stay out of prison. is not worth it. Stay free, people.